I took my hoodie off because I thought it would be nicer to be here with shirt, and I'm regretting that decision. So if you hear my voice shiver, it's because I'm cold. I'm sure we'll get through this. I also want to apologize for this monstrosity on my face here. You probably can't see it, but which was the point I made to my peers on the leadership team at Flagstone, who thought I was the most capable person to be the team captain for our Movember initiative. So I don't actually know how I got this job at Flagstone after that decision making, but on the topic of bad decisions and bad decision making. So I actually didn't even want this job at Flagstone when 4 years ago, but actually James and Albany kind of tricked me into this. And I worked at a Fintech clearing bank where I was managing the UK payment systems. And I was looking for another kind of quote-unquote real job in payments or finance. And when I heard about Flagstone, I thought it can't really be that difficult to put up a website with a few savings products with a bit of a CMS. And I initially declined talking to Flagstone. Then, of course, James convinced me, take the call. I took the call. And 4 years later, I am here talking about Flagstone. So actually, checking, has anyone before they've seen Flagstone on the agenda heard of Flagstone? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Okay. There's usually like one person, and we now have 7, so that's good. It's good to see that we spent millions in marketing this year. We got 6 extra people recognizing the brand. So I'll play that back to our team. So what do we do at Flagstone? We're a cash savings platform or a cash deposit platform. And when you're a client of ours, you can sign up once, and then you have access to savings products from 70 different banks. And then you can mix and match, and you only have to sign up once, go through the KYC once, so it's kind of a bit of a convenience type of thing. And the thing that kind of really attracted me to the business was the complexity that sits under the hood. So trying to coordinate billions of money movement between 70 bank partners, and then you have individual clients, you have corporate clients. Some of you might actually be a client of Flagstone, but not knowing that you are, because we power some of the savings pots for some fintechs. And that's what led me to the business. And back in 22, 23, we were celebrating our 10th anniversary, profitable business, incredible growth trajectory. And the last thing we needed as a business was a distraction of changing our core proprietary platform. Yet I had the brilliant idea to speak to the rest of the leadership team saying, we started a journey where we were attempting to do this. Let's just finish it. It can't really be that difficult. And the reason why we actually pushed ahead with this, despite the fact that we couldn't really afford the distraction, was the system was designed and built during what I would call, the early hustle phase, where founders, where early staff members built the company, built the system. And as many people, hopefully, who have experienced some of the early growth journeys of tech businesses, you just say yes when a potential partner or a big client asks, can you do this for me, because you want to sign the deal. And so when you then look at how things grow and develop over time, combined with the fact that the old legacy system was built for a different type of organization with a very different commercial model. And the Flagstone today commercially operates on a different way, makes money in a different way. And so you were actually dealing with two very different worlds that we were constantly trying to juggle. And then over time, you have then the problem of more and more engineers actually not wanting to work with the old system, or you have some of the original BAs or decision makers who are no longer in the business, and which then also made me appreciate why some companies actually outsource the BAU of their kind of legacy systems, because it's sometimes increasingly harder and more risky trying to manage it in-house with your team. And then the last kind of big driver for us was to speed up our ability to deliver innovation. So we only released a couple of months ago in October, or actually last month, our mobile app, which for a fintech in 2025 is quite shocking that we didn't have a mobile app. And so back in 23, I was one of the people who advised against building the mobile app for the very simple reason that, if we have this legacy system built for a different type of commercial model, and we already had like this initial kind of part of the new system, trying to build a mobile app to bridge those two worlds would be quite hard and very expensive, would take us a long time. So there were so many examples where we were starting to be kind of getting slowed down. And that was really the driver for us to then make the rather, I would want to say courageous, maybe it was very naive, but we made the decision, the very brave decision, to do this. And the thing we've learned throughout that project is kind of split it in three different work streams. And so the thing I always usually advise to teams I work with is adopt a mascot, adopt some sort of brand for your team or your project, because with fast-growing tech businesses, teams change, organizational structures change, and quite often engineers and teams feel a sense of loss of identity and have quite a lot of resistance to change, and which is why I encourage teams just adopt a mascot, a brand, an identity, and that's also what we did here. Obviously, we spent more time trying to figure out which animals to choose versus the risk register we built. As we all know, that kind of naming things in tech is the hardest thing. And so the three work streams we identified, and which for me is now kind of almost a blueprint to do these type of big replatforming projects, is the first one is around building new capabilities. And we called it Flamingo. At that point, we are kind of all were under the belief that a flamingo is a migratory bird. Turns out later on I figured out they weren't. They just go chase opportunities when food ran out. So I guess it kind of we can retrofit that into the narrative there. But Swift is a migratory bird and is quite quick. And so the Swift work stream followed hot on the heels of the first work stream. We're building capabilities, and the Swift teams, they were actually moving clients and assets over from the old system to the new system. And then we had a third one, and I kind of lost the background story and the mental gymnastics we did to explain Marvin to the board. But Marvin was all around almost a obsession with control, validation, and rollback, and automate the hell out of that whole thing. And so when we started, we kind of figured out quite early on that we didn't want to do the classic Big Bang, as in we know broadly this is a waterfall type project. It's a very clear start, a very clear end, very clear scope, and a very clear sequence of activities. And we had various teams across the organization, across different tribes and squads that we've identified, who would build all the new capabilities that we needed on the new platform. And so they were literally like an icebreaker, kind of paving the way and removing all the obstacles for us to have something to move clients and assets to. But one thing I've learned then quite early on is that people and teams are easily distracted when they have other OKRs. So all of those teams were part of other tribes, and those tribe leads all had their own OKRs and goals, and several deliverables were slipping. There were several things that, and the explanation was, well, we were distracted by this, we prioritized that, and the decision was made to remove those obstacles, and we moved literally all the teams and all the individuals that were contributing to this project across the organization, all under one newly created tribe that we called Future Flagstone. And that was under myself as the tribe lead, and it meant one executive who was accountable. There was only one priority for that team, that was to get the new system up and running. And it also avoided any type of distractions or debates or disagreements around priorities. And then it slowly kind of started to kind of dawn on us that even though this is one of those classic waterfall type projects, there is an incredible agility that we can actually bake into this project. And rather than building the whole new platform and then move all clients and assets in one go at the end, what we managed to do is actually move clients cohort by cohort. So we realized quite quickly that you don't have to build a full platform in order for some clients to move to that new system. So what we did is we identified certain traits, and as an example, if you are a individual client and maybe you've only joined Flagstone as a client 2 years ago, you only have one product, let's say a instant access product with nothing too complicated, then you were one of the first group of people we could move over, because we didn't need to build 60-70% of the rest for you to be on that platform. And so when you look at the cohorts and the traits that we've defined, there are probably hundreds of different small cohorts, and some of them were 50 clients, some of them were 1,500 clients. And we could then steer the Flamingo teams on building just enough so that the Swift client and asset migration teams could then push over number of 50, 60, 100, 200 clients every day to that new system. Now, it didn't go like perfectly. We had a few hiccups, and I know some of our bank partners are in the room who have experienced some of the pain. But that allowed us to actually move a 12 billion kind of asset pool with clients step by step, day by day over, which meant that every day we gained more and more confidence of the resiliency of the system, of the process, of the quality control process, rather than waiting till the very end and then realizing actually this isn't working, or have tens and tens of thousand clients upset because mistakes were made. And this is also how we then ultimately sold the full project to the board, because obviously most of us have either experienced or heard of big tech projects, replatforming projects that failed. So it's fair to say that there was a bit of a anxiety behind the project, and I wasn't 100% comfortable myself. I'm like, well, sometimes you just need to stick your neck out and go for it. And this is, I believe, from Jeff Bezos, who was very much around. There are two types of decisions. Some of them are one-way doors, and when you make the decision, there is no way back. But most problems are actually two-way doors that when you go through it, you've changed your mind and you've learned, you can actually step back. And because of the process we've introduced and the agility around the client cohorts that allowed us to potentially pause or step back, meant that it wasn't a big end-to-end type of unsurmountable project, which was ultimately what also then gave our board and the rest of the exec team the comfort that, you know what, this could work. Luckily it did, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about this here right now. So I guess the survivor bias. So, and then the third one was around the control and validation and the kind of almost extreme obsession to automate the hell out of that. So obviously, because we're moving client money, there is absolutely no possibility of finishing this project and then realize, oh, actually, we got £5.20 somewhere left, and then trying to figure out where that money is coming from. Because if you have that type of uncertainty, you don't know whether it is just £5.20 or a whole bunch of clients have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds too much and others have not enough. So this is where I learned that Microsoft Power BI has a limit, and I think we've found the limit when our lead principal engineer, he built what he described Homer's car. If you're not familiar with that, look up online. It's when Homer had the chance to design his own car, which, as you would expect, is this monstrosity with way too many features. And so we built this Power BI dashboard that reflected all the different parameters of client configurations, as I mentioned earlier, around the client type, the type of bank partners, how they got to the platform, what type of products they have, any particular weirdness in their configuration or properties of their deposits that they hold at Flagstone. And then we could generate a list of clients, as I said, sometimes 10, sometimes 200, and then we fed that into a system called Marvin, where we were running almost one by one, hundreds of checks before we migrated the client over, and then hundreds of post-migration checks, checking balances across deposits, followed by a team that did the manual checks to compare interface, the visual user interface between the old and the new system. So there was quite an extreme paranoia about making mistakes, because this is about, even though you sometimes get detached from the reality when you see all these ones and zeros and hundreds of millions of money flowing around digitally, ultimately this is real money from people. So including that was quite a big, painful automated rollback as well, which was the thing that we didn't initially have to that level of automation, which then causes problems, which then meant we invested a couple of sprints in building the ability to move clients back, because it didn't occur to us that sometimes, not people are human beings that can't just be controlled. So for instance, when we generated the list of eligible clients to move over, of course you would then have this one person who then right in those seconds between generating the list and feeding it into the migration system would decide to deposit something that then wasn't supported. So we had to build quite a lot of the rollback mechanisms as well to kind of move clients back to the old system, which wasn't always appreciated, of course. But in most cases, people never even realized that it was happening, which was ultimately what we wanted to do. I actually have no time. How am I doing with time here? But I'm sure I'm... Oh, yeah, okay. And so ultimately, when you look at the teams, then there is this one thing that kind of unites all of those people, and it's that perseverance, right? It's kind of pushing through when things become quite hard. And so you need the dreamers, you need the people who are optimistic, you need the people who know where all the skeletons are buried, and you also need people who just enjoy solving some of these very gnarly, tedious problems. And they're all united by the fact that they just don't give up and then come back the next day and continue chipping away at the problem. So if I kind of summarize some of the key takeaways of this, is that the main learning is around people, is make sure you have the right team from day one. We delayed some of the onboarding of certain people because of budget reasons, and people were kind of busy working on other things. If I can do this again, it would literally be from day one, everyone that I need will be on that project, because it will pay dividends to have the right team in place from day one, rather than them being drip-fed into the teams. The second one is to make sure that you don't see this as a pure tech project. The biggest dividend that we've given to Flagstone for its future was looking at all the historic decisions we've made in the hustle years, all the bespoke terms and conditions, all of those small quirks that we've built in the platform, and eradicate them. So we literally renegotiated all the contracts with our introducer partners, for instance, in order to standardize rather than everyone has their own. We simplified that to 2-3 different templates. And we can see that across all the different products, savings products, interest payment frequencies, everything. And that's really the true dividend, the real benefit for us as a business to allow us to grow and scale for the next 10 years on this platform. It wasn't really just the tech. It was really undoing some of those historic business decisions. And then lastly, which was a very kind of important learning for myself, is to look after yourself. It's fair to say that it was a very stressful period. And as they always say, when you're on a plane, to put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others. That was definitely a learning for me. And that's something I would recommend everyone, is make sure that you help yourself first, make sure that you show up positively, because otherwise your teams will never kind of follow you into what was quite a difficult 16-month period of time. And look after your team. I've talked about the brilliant people who were showing up every single day. And because I didn't look after myself always, it also meant I couldn't look after the team. And some of us did flirt with burnout at some point. And so after 16 months, I think it was time to finish it. And we finished it the 31st of October last year. And in true style, we just had a couple of Peronis, and I just went home because I was too tired to celebrate. That was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee.